Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Brie Larson. She's finally learned to keep her mouth shut. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Brie Larson has finally been silenced. The Hollywood feminist icon now runs from the Captain Marvel backlash that she created herself. Brie Larson, the once outspoken advocate for progress in the film industry, has suddenly gone quiet. In a shocking new interview, she outright refuses to discuss the massive backlash against Captain Marvel, dodging questions about feminism, activism, and the disastrous box office failure she created with the Marvels. Now, she had a little help, but it was mostly her fault. So what happened? Where's the Brie Larson who lectured audiences about diversity, equity, inclusion, and scolded Marvel fans? Toxic fans for being the wrong kinds of critics, and then declared herself a champion of change? The answer is simple. Her entire narrative has collapsed. Numbers don't lie. The Marvels was an absolute catastrophe for Disney and Marvel Studios. Despite aggressive marketing, endless media hype, and months of re-editing by Kevin Feige himself, who must have had nothing better to do than to try to rescue this bomb, the movie flopped spectacularly, bringing in just $206 million worldwide, the lowest grossing MCU movie of all time. Even worse, it lost Disney a jaw-dropping $237 million, and the loss to Marvel went much further than just a few $100 million. The loss in value to the largest film franchise ever created, the MCU, that took them 10 years of momentum to build. And the demoralization of the Marvel offices, who are supposed to be focusing on creating future hits, is incalculable. Can you imagine having a failure like this after all of those hits? And then being told, okay, go create something good. Well, what should it be now? I mean, we don't really even know what we're doing over here. The answer is nobody at Marvel knew what they were doing anymore. Even just compare the results of the Marvels to the original Captain Marvel movie, which grossed over $1.1 billion worldwide back in 2019. So what actually changed? The first movie was sandwiched between two Avengers movies, making fans feel like they needed to see her film to fully appreciate the Avengers, and the damage to the Marvel Studios brand had yet to be done. Audiences have had enough of Brie Larson's smug, condescending attitude and the film industry's obsession with forced messaging over storytelling. This time, people didn't just complain, they walked away. And Disney, despite all of its damage control, could not save the movie. So why is Brie Larson being so quiet? What's she afraid of? Larson's recent interview with The Telegraph was supposed to be about promoting her upcoming London play called Elektra. No relation to the Marvel character. But when the journalist brought up her role as Captain Marvel, things took a sharp and uncomfortable turn. When asked in the interview why some men were supposedly threatened by her casting, the room reportedly went ice cold. Brie Larson's response? Quote, I don't know. I don't pay attention. This is the same Brie Larson who once insisted that Hollywood had a sexism problem. The same Brie Larson who demanded, quote, more seats at the table, and complained about too many white male critics reviewing films. But now suddenly, she's not paying attention. It gets worse. The journalist pressed further, asking if ignoring the backlash was her way of handling sexism in the industry. And that's when she shut down completely. Quote, what I would like you to see is that by continuing this conversation, you're putting me in connection with something that has nothing to do with me. Except that Brie Larson spent years putting herself at the center of this conversation. But now that the Marvels is bombed and her Hollywood influence is crumbling, she wants to pretend that it was never her fight to begin with. That's not just cowardly, it's embarrassing. Larson was so uncomfortable with the questions that her own publicist had to step in and demand the journalist move on to another topic. That's right. Brie Larson, who once positioned herself as an empowered woman, unafraid to speak her mind, now needs PR handlers to protect her from tough questions. This is the same woman who called out Hollywood for not being inclusive enough, the same woman who mocked critics for not supporting Captain Marvel. And now, when it's time to stand by her own words, she folds like a cheap Hollywood script. It's as if she finally understands somebody sat her down and talked to her and explained performative activism in Hollywood is over now, and she's desperately trying to escape before it takes her career down with it. This interview marks a stunning transformation for Brie Larson. Back in 2018, she was at the forefront of Hollywood's push for change. She gave self-righteous speeches about industry sexism, demanded diversity quotas, and dismissed certain moviegoers as not her audience. But now she refuses to even touch these topics. No bold statements, no grandstanding, just blank-faced dismissive responses. So what happened to her? The truth is, audiences are tired of celebrities lecturing them. They're tired of actors prioritizing activism over storytelling. They're tired of Hollywood treating entertainment like a political soapbox. And Larson, whether she admits it or not, is feeling the backlash. Disney banked on her being the new face of Marvel. She was even said to be the most powerful Marvel character. And it completely backfired on them. This silence from Brie Larson isn't just a PR move. It's her last chance to stay afloat as Hollywood shifts away from the virtue signaling era that made her famous. For years, studios assumed they could get away with this. Eventually, they found out that social messaging is not going to equal ticket sales. Moviegoers have finally had enough. People don't want condescending lectures disguised as superhero movies. They don't want actors who treat them like the enemy. They want great stories, compelling characters, not activists who preach to them. And now, Brie Larson is finally realizing that she bet on the wrong side. Brie Larson's refusal to talk about the backlash is a huge turning point. It proves that the Hollywood elite, once untouchable in their moral grandstanding, are finally facing consequences for their arrogance. She can try to distance herself from her past statements all she wants, but the reality is simple. Audiences remember, and the internet never forgets. She built her entire Hollywood persona around telling people how they should think, what they should support, and why they were wrong if they didn't agree. Now she's watching her influence vanish before her eyes, and she has no idea how to fix it. No amount of PR spin can erase the years of arrogance and condescension that turned audiences against her. The Marvels flopped because people didn't care anymore. They didn't want to hear from her. And that, more than anything, is why Brie Larson has finally been silenced. Brie Larson really did do permanent damage to the Marvel brand. And not just to Marvel, to superheroes in general. From The Hollywood Reporter, Marvel Studios taking stock of strategy amid the Marvel's meltdown. It's well known throughout Hollywood that this was a massive mistake, and they're not going to repeat it. And no exaggeration, Brie Larson was actually really known as a loudmouth, woke, agenda-pushing diversity nut. Even on her own Wikipedia page. She's called out as a gender equality activist. She's also vocal about social and political issues. She's also called Captain Marvel a feminist movie, but celebrates feminism off-screen as well. And the real agenda pushing was supposed to be to expose her as LGBT. From Screen Rant, Marvel's new Captain Marvel is among the publisher's most powerful queer superheroes of all time. As if anyone's going to go and pay money specifically to see the sexual identity of some superhero and wonder how powerful they are. No, none of that actually worked. Art is supposed to be about truth. What she ought to be doing is just admit she made a ridiculous mistake. She got a lot of bad advice. She took people's encouragement. It was all about self-aggrandizement. It really wasn't about protecting people or creating diversity. It was about trying to seize power and get something in terms of popularity, importance, position that she never actually earned. Leveraging the Marvel brand to introduce this version of diversity, equity, and inclusion has been a very expensive lesson for Disney. It set an incredible example because of the size, because of the scope. This was the entire Marvel Universe brand, the MCU. An unstoppable, like $30 billion franchise, completely brought to its knees because of woke stupidity. And the lesson in all this is just be authentic and serve a customer base that wants something specific. If you know what your customer actually wants, you're 90% of the way there. Just do the extra 10%. Give them what they want. And if you're able to do that, if you have the resources, the talent available, the machinery, the distribution, the production capacity, there's no excuse for not giving people what they want. Disney's now desperate to recapture the magic they used to have with Marvel. The magic with Marvel was built up. Forgetting the comics, that was a good installed base of customers. This brought in normies. It brought in regular people off the street that were interested to see what would happen next with these characters. Marvel did that over the course of 10 years or so with the MCU. If Marvel bounces back, it's going to be years and years of them building momentum, film after film, delivering for the customer again and again and again to restore what they had several years ago already. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you. And if you'd like to support the channel and help me make even more videos, check out the join button and become a member today.